Hello and welcome to this Sync webinar. My name is Jason Senamore, the Chief Product Officer here at Sync, and I'm delighted and to be honored to be joined today by our three panelists to talk about the new normal. We have Tammy-Lynn Jonas, the CIO of Esteem Brands. Hi, Tammy-Lynn. We have Hugh Hale, CIO of TennCare Information Systems. Hi, Hugh. And we also have Dar Patadia, the CIO of Collabera. As mentioned, we're here today to discuss the new normal. Everybody experiencing challenges right now, and those challenges vary depending on the state of the organization before all of these measures went into place, the roles that people hold, the size of organizations that they work within, the size of their teams that they're managing, etc., etc. It's fair to say everybody right now is working hard to get through this, but this will change the face of the earth. This will change the face of how we operate moving forward, and it will certainly change the way that people look to put strategies in place should anything like this happen again. So we want to focus today on that new normal. What does that new normal look like right now, and how does that new normal look in the future? But before we jump in to all of that, I first wanted to just get a bit of a health check on you guys. So Tammy-Lynn, how things going for you? Everything all right?
Things are good. We're here in Minneapolis, and schools have been closed for about 3 weeks now. So my son, who's 11, and my girls, who are 7 and 5, are home right now. My husband is also home, but you know, the lines between work and home get blurred pretty easily here.
Awesome. What about yourself, Hugh?
We're doing good. We're here in Nashville and working from home for the past few weeks. And I live with, I have my parents that live with me, so they're elderly, and so we have to take special precaution with them. And just trying to go to the grocery store once a week, or maybe even less than that. Trying to just hunker down and get through this. Stay at home, safe at home. Trying to make sure everybody stays healthy. Doing good.
Good. And Dar?
Yeah, so here in New Jersey, things are a little bit crazier than the other parts of the world right now, but we're holding our own right now. You know, kids are doing fine. One is in New York, one is also in New Jersey somewhere, and me and my wife are here enjoying our time alone and working, of course.
Good stuff. And watching Tiger King, I'm sure, as well.
There you go.
So, I mean, great place to start, right? We're talking about the new normal here. I'd love to get an idea to begin with on kind of how everyone reacted immediately once orders started coming through that, you know, stay-at-home initiatives going to be put in place. More importantly, work from home, right? From an organizational perspective, that happened first. Workforce is automatically going 100% remote. So I really want to kind of like focus in on that school of thought once that instruction was received for everybody to stay home for the foreseeable future. Tammy-Lynn, I'll start again with you here, but talk me through about, I suppose, the different stages of reaction here, and also would love to get an understanding of how much of your workforce was remote prior to all of this, and I suppose the immediate challenges that you faced around that.
Yeah, so just as a little background, so Esteem Brands is the parent company of Anytime Fitness, Waxing the City, Basecamp Fitness, and the Bar Method. And so we've got about 500 locations across 40 countries. So we're primarily a fitness club and a waxing salon. And so, you know, our first thought with all of this is really trying to understand, like, does this apply to us as we're trying to, they're trying to shut businesses down, and you're getting different, you know, conflicting messages from different local governments here in the US, but also because we have locations abroad, we have clubs in Italy and Spain and Asia, you know, we were seeing a lot of this on the front end earlier. And so, you know, we were trying to really figure out, you know, what is our social obligation to close the clubs versus what is our member obligation to stay open. And so, you know, and what we really ended up doing was based on what the local governments were requiring. So it wasn't that us saying, okay, we're going to shut everything down. It was really based on our franchisees responding to their own local governments responding. And so that was really the first part, is like, hey, are we open? Are we closed? What do we do with that? You know, we didn't have a large work from home policy or workforce before this happened. So we had flexibility that we might have people occasionally working from home, but we really didn't have a very mobile workforce before then. So this was a definite change for us.
Right, and just a little bit of a follow-up question here. How's it been the first few weeks then with remote workforce, et cetera, et cetera? I mean, everything seems to be going smoothly and communication good.
You know, it is, we've definitely weathered the storm for sure. I think we probably overestimated how well people understood using video conferencing tools and their ability to just do their work remotely. You know, most of our systems are in the cloud, so it's not like we had, you know, a big issue with, you know, VPN connections or, you know, latency, things like that. But really the tips and tricks that you do for a web conference like this, that you mute yourself, that you use internet audio, that you log in early, best practices for doing these things remotely, I don't think were well understood. And so we really had to invest in a lot of training on the front end to do that. Likewise, we had to really help people distinguish which items were things that we could help them with versus things that were their own items. So if your internet at home doesn't work and that is a carrier issue, calling our help desk will not help you. And so we've had a, you know, just some early learnings just in terms of growing pains with getting people access remotely.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Hugh, moving on to yourself, talk us through how things evolved on your side.
So things are going well. Just a little bit of background. I'm with TennCare, and it's the state of Tennessee's Medicaid program. And so we provide health care for the most vulnerable population in the state of Tennessee, roughly a little right around 1.4 million Tennesseans. And so during this period, it's extremely vital that we are able to support our mission. And so, because we're right in the square of the healthcare industry, and our people are definitely need services. So, fortunately, I say that fortunately, we got a little bit of a trial run from working from home the week before that we got the work from home order, and that we had a tornado go through our area and shut our building down for a week. The whole area was completely shut down. Our building wasn't hit, but we lost power to the building. And so we woke up one morning and everybody had to work from home. So we had been contingency planning for a couple of years, but you know what? And we had a rule where everybody had to take their laptops home every night just in case. Well, I didn't, and so I didn't have my laptop, so I had to go back into the building. So there's a few holes, mostly on my side, but. So we got the trial run, and then we came back to work, and we were at work for a week, and we got to make some adjustments, and then all of a sudden, everything hit the fan, and we had to go home. But so we were a little more prepared. But what we discovered is the devil's really in the details. Even with our best contingency planning, things like, and I think Tammy mentioned this, internet from home, and you know, if you have kids at home playing video games while you're on video conferences, it can affect the quality of your conference. So we had to adjust accordingly. We had things like mail operations. We get checks in the mail. We have to send out explanation of benefit forms. We have to send out notices. And so there's a certain population that couldn't work from home. And so we had to make sure they were social distancing. And then we found out a few of our staff didn't even have internet access to their home. They live in very rural areas. And so we had to quickly order MiFis and hotspots so they could use their cell phone or whatever they needed to be able to do this. And then the last thing that I think that was a little bit of a surprise to us is we have a lot of vendors and partners that work with us, and we had to dovetail with their contingency plan. So I've got consultants flying in from all over the country. They can't fly in anymore, but can they still do their job remote? How do we effectively set up meetings and do that? So it was a very rapid learning curve, but luckily we had that 1 week kind of trial run. I say luckily, even though it was a tornado, but luckily we got that to kind of iron out some details where we would have it would have been a little bit worse. But we're doing good now. Most of our workforce was not working from home. They may have adjusted work schedules where they can work at home for 1 or 2 days a week, so they're kind of used to it. But this is the new normal of now training them on how to work from home every day. just taking care of yourselves, making sure you follow work guidelines, get up and get dressed, just things that we never really considered before. We're all having to learn on the fly and stay in touch with each other. So we're doing well. It's we made the adjustment and we're doing well.
That's amazing. Yeah, very interesting. That obviously, having experienced previous crises, you've had to kind of make those adjustments in the past, which must have made the transition, as you said, a little bit easier. But still, having to deal with remote workers with no internet access at all, something that I suppose never even comes to your mind when you're thinking about that, or think about trying to manage that type of crisis. So great insight there. Thank you so much. And Dar, over to you. So talk us through how things start going.
Well, Collabera is a staffing company, right? We staff people all across the globe, primarily in the US. We've got about 8,000 contractors that are working, but my sales force is about 700 to 800 people in the US. But then I've got a huge back office operations, right? Where we actually do a lot of recruiting and other things from India offshore. So I've got a staff of about 1,500 people in India, right? That, are situated in one building and do a lot of work from there for us. So we were proactive. The company was really proactive in talking about working from home and, taking the decision before the government came and said, hey, lock down everything. So we came in on a Monday morning, right? We had a meeting with all the leaders in IT as well as business and say, hey guys, starting tomorrow, we're going to start working from home. What are the challenges? What has to be done from both a business service standpoint, from a sales standpoint, from a recruitment standpoint, from a delivery standpoint. So we all got together, we figured out what had to be done and how we had to make sure everybody was functioning. So again, the biggest challenge was our overseas operation, which had to be operational. And we also were going to shut that one down in terms of have everybody work from home. So I've got about 1,500 people now that have to enable and work from home. So challenge is definitely what Tammy Lynn was talking about, internet. India is even worse than what you have here, trust me. So, you have challenges of people having machines at home, having internet at home. So people actually took desktops from the office, took them home with them. So desktop computers that they had, they hooked them up. They didn't have any wireless connection, so we had to get them Wi-Fi devices and so on and so forth. So just managing all those logistics was crazy, right? And getting people up and running was another challenge, but we were able to do it in about 1.5 days, get everybody to the point where they could actually be productive. And I think, key people on my staff that were able to do it and really ran with it did a wonderful job. We created a daily call in the morning with all of our people in India as well as the people here to make sure that business was running, the key metrics of business were looked at by us. So not just were we looking at IT enablement, but business enablement. Was business happening? Were the things that we needed to do our jobs happening? So we started looking at that and working with our business partners to make sure those critical items were being done. And we're still continually doing that. I mean, it's been about 15 days that we've been working from home, and we're still continuously doing that to make sure that we're in a comfort stage, right? And that we don't have to look at it every day. So I think we've ironed out most of the little kinks that come up when you first start doing this work from home. I think the next challenge is now, how do you make sure the productivity now is the same that you had before, right? You're still able to do the sales, you're still able to do the recruitment, still able to run your business. So that's one of the challenges. The other challenge, of course, is the whole economy has changed, right? All the people that were buying from you, they've all changed. So now you have to adjust what the business does, okay? So what is needed, what isn't needed nowadays has to shift. What clients do we have? We have to shift that as well. So there's a lot of things in play at this point. And I don't think that's going to pan out until the next 3 months easily, because as the world evolves now, the world has changed, okay? Not only is this a temporary thing, but we don't know how temporary it is and when the next temporary item will happen again. And it will happen again. Now that we've got, this whole social social media and the way things travel so quickly, the news travels so quickly, this will just happen over and over again. I could see this being the new norm, right? Next year you might have another pandemic or another occasion where everybody says, well, stay home. And now that we've done it once, we'll know how to do it, right? From IT side, we'll be enabled. From business side is what we have to see, can we be enabled, right? So each type of company has to really reevaluate what is their business, what is it that we're going to do for the next foreseeable future.
Set the benchmark, right, for the future, as we say.
Absolutely.
These things happen again. Now we are prepared to a certain extent, but that's a nice segue. Actually, you mentioned things like productivity. Lovely segue into the next question I wanted to ask, because understandably, when you're all in the office before this happens, you're all carrying out projects, completing projects, creating timelines for new projects, investments, implementations of technologies, etc., etc. Now that doesn't stop, right?
Nope.
So as a CIO, and I'll start with you in this instance, Dar. So as a CIO, what adjustments have you had to make in order to build and continue to communicate and make sure that you are progressing with your IT strategy effectively?
So I think some of the adjustments have been that a lot more video calls, of course, right? So you're constantly talking to your folks. The challenge with India, of course, is that if we do video calls, they run out of bandwidth. So we had to do more audio calls, right? So even we're on Zoom or Citrix GoToMeeting and so on and so forth, we'll just do the audio parts, right? A lot more frequent meetings, a lot more follow-up is being done, okay? And in fact, one of the things I noticed is people are working a lot longer than they used to work because you don't have a commute anymore. There's no commute. So people start earlier, they leave later, and you just have a lot more things going on. The day's more full because of all the meetings. Before you used to have a break, you used to be able to walk to the washroom and go get coffee and so on and so forth. All that time is gone because the coffee is right here. It's like, a second away from me, bathroom is right there, right? I don't have to walk down the hall or anything else. So all those times have gotten compressed now, right? So I've gained 2 hours worth of work time just in all these breaks that are gone, right? Good and bad both, right? You eat lunch, you're done in 15 minutes, you're back at the desk, right? So this is the new norm that I'm seeing, making us work a lot more harder, but our people as well, right? And I think we have to understand that, there has to be some separation that we have to give people, right, to be able to run their personal lives as well as the business lives. So it's definitely a change. Now, in terms of making sure that our productivity is there, I think one of the challenges that we may have is, how metric driven were we? Because now you have to be metric driven. Because if you're not metric driven, you don't know what's going on with your folks, right? So now this comes up and saying, okay, what are the matrices I do for development work, for infrastructure work, for this type of work, and so on? Can't just run by date because they could give you a date and still not hit it because you're not measuring per the different times that they should have certain things done. So it's a lot more detail oriented in terms of work.
Yeah, thank you. Tammy Lynn, I'll ask you a similar question. I suppose not only just around how you communicate the IT strategy effectively, but I mean, did you have to hit pause on some of the projects that you are currently working on, or have you been able to kind of like maintain those with completion dates in mind?
No, I agree with what Dar is saying in terms of making temporary adjustments, and unfortunately, we don't know how long this temporary situation is. You don't throw your whole roadmap out the window because this is happening, but what we've done is really accelerate the projects that are meaningful now. So in the setting of, fitness clubs, virtual workouts, virtual coaching, the ability to stream things, those are the things that are relevant now. And so we're accelerating those things. Other enhancements that, would really only hit you if you were physically in a club, we've paused those for now. It's really been about accelerating the things that have value now. And then there's a whole bunch of incremental work that we're doing as a result of COVID-19. There's certain things that we have to do that are new projects that are either going to enable us to save money. We have some projects to eliminate duplicate platforms. And, we were we had a timeline before, but now in an effort to save money, we're going to accelerate those things. So it's balancing the new work as a result of COVID with the things that are going to be relevant now, and pausing the things that don't have immediate value to accelerate the things that are more important.
Gotcha. And Hugh, kind of piggybacking on that as well, when we talk about IT strategy, obviously our technology partners play a major role in that. I mean, how have you been looking to some of your technology partners to help you through this process? And, you know, not just from a software perspective of, you know, communications tools, but more just in terms of the communication they're giving you and the leeway they're potentially giving you on making sure you've got everything you need to continue and have as little disruption as possible.
So I think there's different levels that we had to focus on. First of all, is buttoning up the operations, the day-to-day. You know, IT through this has to perform even more flawlessly than we did, you know, when we're in the office together. The business is more dependent on us than ever, and so taking a look at our operations, looking at our partners, making sure that they have what they need to accomplish our task and our mission. And even looking at all the way down to the staff productivity level, because some people, as you well know, are geared and built to be productive at home. Some aren't, and they need extra help. They need extra training. They need a little bit more motivation. They may need more of a high touch from management to stay motivated. And you know, there's also the mental health side of this. You know, it can get lonely. You can feel like you're isolated. And so we had to pay attention to that to make sure that operations didn't suffer at all. So that's kind of the first level. And then the second level is looking at our portfolio from a couple of different views. One is and this is really interesting, that the whole portfolio management, demand management, and IT governance and the partnership with the business has taken on a new level of importance. And because the business now has new demands, we have to change the way we're dealing with our clientele, who, like I said before, the most vulnerable population. They need additional services that we weren't providing 2 weeks ago. You know, testing for COVID, things that they need rapidly. Our providers need to have funding for those, you know, very rapidly. So that involves system changes. So system changes that really desperately need to be made. So we had to look at our portfolio and say, okay, what things can be delayed without really any harm to the program, and in order to fit in this additional work. And so that second layer is working with our partners, both on the business side and our strategic partners, to say what can be done very rapidly, and what does that mean from both a portfolio standpoint of the applications we're building and a funding perspective. Do we have the funding to do these? What are areas that we can cut immediately or stop doing in order to do this additional work? And then the third level is what I would call strategic planning. It takes on even more importance. And I think Tammy mentioned this earlier, is what if this problem lasts 3 months? And we're probably okay. What if it lasts 6 months? Okay, that starts to get a little shaky on the planning. What if it lasts a year? And in IT, it's our job to live out there in that 1 year to 18 month time frame, because we have to be there before the business does. We have to have the answers on what does it mean for the portfolio, what does it mean for the funding, what does it mean for your revenue, all those things that go into a what if scenario. So we're working with our partners on strategically planning 3 months, 6 months, a year to 18 month impact, and how would we adjust in the best case and worst case scenario. So it's a chess match, and you know, we don't have a lot of information. You know, we're praying and hoping that it's only a few months, but you know, prayer and hope is not a strategy for long range planning. So that all dovetails with the portfolio and governance and demand management that we're doing, looking at our entire infrastructure.
Fantastic. And Dar, so you had mentioned previously, right, about that, again, we look at productivity and people getting more work accomplished and things like that. It can be seen as maybe one of the few benefits that have come out of this. I don't like to talk about benefits of this situation, but hey, try and focus on some positives, right? And that is a benefit that comes out is level of productivity. One of the biggest challenges that CIOs have been talking about for the past few years is that alignment of IT and the business, right? And how the business needs to listen to IT more and let IT drive the business forward. Surely this has put extra focus on that, and in some cases made business leaders wake up and pay attention to the fact that IT is essentially the most pivotal part of the business that we're in these days, right?
Absolutely. I think, the first question that came out from business users was, hey, will we be able to work? Will we be able to do what we need to do to be able to survive as a company? And when we were day two, when everything was working and everybody was able to get productive and do things, people, stood up and said, wow, look what IT has done for us. Look where IT has gotten us. Now, it's interesting because our business has been going through a digital transformation for the last 2-3 years. And, digital transformation means different things to different folks. But for us, digital transformation is not about technology. It's about the use of technology to grow your business or to be able to survive something like a pandemic or a disaster like a tornado or so on and so forth, right? So like Hugh was talking about, IT has to be able to bridge that thing and make sure that business is still functioning, right? I believe he was talking about making sure all those functions are working and having things still happen, whether it's your back office items or your front office items and so on and so forth, right? So definitely business has woken up and they've seen that IT is what will get me there. Now the challenge is to get them to the next level where they see IT more of a partner to get them sales or whatever else is needed.
Right. And so I suppose looking at what the new normal is then, guys, we're living it right now, right? There's no real knowledge on how long this is going to last, but what is apparent is when we come out the other side of this, companies are going to have new ideas, new practices. There's going to be a lot of knowledge at our disposal, and more importantly, the way we operate as businesses or the way you operate as IT leaders, it's going to change, right? So Tammy Lynn, talk to me. What is the new normal right now, and what do you perceive to be the new normal moving forward?
One of the things that I talked to my team a lot about the last couple of weeks is the importance of kind of a wartime mentality, that the things that you would do in peacetime are not the things that you do in wartime. And so if anybody's seen the movie The Godfather, they have a great example there where there's a wartime consigliere who's different from a peacetime consigliere. And, right now we're in wartime. We don't have the luxury of spin. If we're not aligned with our business partners, if we're really spinning on what's going to be this enhancement, whatever, we just don't have the luxury of that. We need to make tight decisions. We need to keep our teams aligned, and we need to be scrappy and drive a true MVP. We don't have the time to spin on things for meeting after meeting. We've got to make clean decisions, get alignment on those, and go quickly. And so that's really the new normal for us.
Tammy Lynn nailed it. In fact, I had written down, and when I talked to my team, is about a battlefield mentality, which is taken. It's exactly right. We're in the fog of war right now, and in the fog of war, sometimes mistakes happen, but you can't set and diagnose the mistake. You have to figure out, okay, that mistake happened. How do I adjust? And we'll do the lessons learned when we're not when bullets aren't flying in the heat of a battle. But we can't lose those lessons, because the transitioning from a battlefield mentality, which we're in right now, and probably will be in for a short period of time, to the new normal is going to depend on what basically what the virus does and how we respond to it as people, when we can get back to work, when people aren't getting sick, and the needs start to change and become more manageable. So we have to think about that, but we can't lose sight of the changes and the complexity that we're dealing in right now. But we also have to realize that it is a fog, and that when you're in a fog of war, communication is everything. So we're in constant communication with our users, with the executive staff. We're in constant communication with our partners. And one of the things that I've noticed is there's a lot more grace right now. People are are willing to say, hey, try it, let's see if it'll work. And it didn't work. Okay, it's okay. We'll figure it out. Everybody's I think things like this bring out the best in humanity, and I'm seeing that across the board, that everybody understands that we're all in that fog, and that we're trying to fight to get to the other side.
Very well put. And Dar?
Yeah, I definitely agree with him. I think the level that people have gone down to in terms of being able to look at technology and so on and so forth, and take the time out to learn things now, right? Before, you go to a business user, sometimes they wouldn't even want to talk to the IT folks, right? They would say, oh, we just do it our way and that's it, right? But I think definitely the world has changed in that respect for us, right? IT is now at the forefront, right? Because I mean, just having a video conversation like this, with all the users is always a difficult thing, but now it's becoming the new norm, right? The new norm is that, do you need remote offices, right? People can just work from home, so why invest in real estate? Just have people work from home all the time, or work from small locations, and that's it, Believe me, our procurement guys are already looking at this, right? They already came to me and say, wow, look, we're working from home, we're still productive. So do I need these offices, these 50 offices I have throughout the US? What do we do to minimize that, right? So
Yeah.
all those new things are coming out. Very interesting.
Well, that's amazing, guys. I, for one, I repel the idea that we go 100% remote in the future, because the last thing I want to do is have a recreation of the Disney movie WALL-E, where everyone's just riding around on motorized vehicles with a screen in front of them. They never interact with people. So I'm all for getting back into the office. To put a little spin on it myself as well, I think part of the new norm here is resiliency amongst workforce. Human beings in general. In the past, a challenge occurs within a project, and there's a tendency to maybe blow that challenge out of proportion a little bit, right? Or say that challenge and see it as a defeat or a real knock in your stride. Nothing will ever be as challenging as this, right? And I think that the most important thing for everyone to remember is, moving forward, when problems arise, you're just going to be able to brush it off your shoulder in comparison to what we're all going through right now. I think an important message to everyone watching this is just to say that you can clearly hear this from our panelists today. You're not alone, right? Nobody is alone in this situation. Everybody is going through this right now. The best thing that everyone can do as leaders in their organizations is stay resilient, stay productive, keep communicating effectively, know that this will end, and more importantly, just to kind of finish everything, stay home, help flatten the curve, listen to the advice of the authorities, and soon enough we'll be able to get over the hump, and we'll be having another conversation, I'm sure, in a few months' time on how everyone is kind of like faring after this whole situation. But to sign off, I want to say thank you so much to each of you for participating today. Really appreciate your time, really appreciate your insight. I'm glad you're all safe and well. Please continue to do so. Keep your family safe. And again, to everyone watching, stay safe. Thank you very much for joining, and we look forward to seeing you at another Sync webinar in the very near future. Thank you very much. Thanks all.
Thank you.